This budget hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriation and Adjudication will now reconvene with the Guam Community College. I want to welcome President Okada, Mr. Eloy Hara from the Board of Trustees, who will open.
Mr. Hara will open.
Mr. Hara.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Benjamin F. Cruz, Speaker, Committee on Appropriation and Adjudication, 34th Guam Legislature, relevant to GCC FY 2019 budget hearing. Hafaday, Mr. Speaker and Senator Torres. It is with great pride that I come before you to represent our Chairman of the GCC Board of Trustees, Mr. Frank Ariola, to testify in favor of the Guam Community College fiscal year 2019 budget request of $20,479,013. I understand that the legislature this year is engaging in a zero-based budgeting approach for the FY 2019 legislative budget process, which means that the college should not consider what it received last year, but instead started budget requests anew. As you will see, the college is fully prepared to justify its nearly $20.5 million request for FY 2019. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that on April 26, GCC received its 17th consecutive clean audit from the Office of the Public Auditor. The OPA commended GCC for being the only government agency to be a low-risk auditee for that extended period of time. This report is proof positive that GCC is a tremendous steward of the people's money. For other evidence that GCC makes excellent use of our taxpayer dollars, I urge all members of the committee to visit GCC campus in the near future. We are about to complete our 6th new building and have broken ground on the renovation of another of our Butler buildings in order to provide the student and the community with an expanded multipurpose auditorium for learning and workforce development purposes. Our enrollment both in our post-secondary programs and in our secondary career and technical education, or CTE, programs in the public high schools is steady. We just conferred degrees, certificates, or diplomas on 407 people during our commencement 1 month ago yesterday, empowering them to either enter the workforce as skilled employees or to continue their post-secondary education. Either way, our island's workforce is better prepared and more competitive because of the work we do at GCC. GCC also experienced a very successful accreditation visit from a 10-member team from the Accreditation Commission for Community and Junior Colleges this past March. We expect a positive announcement from the AACCJC concerning our accreditation status in the next several weeks. Given all that I have mentioned, my fellow board members, Richard Sablan, Vice Chairman, Gina Ramos, Secretary, myself, Treasurer, and Deborah Ballinger and Carlo Leon Guerrero, members, and I are confident that this budget request for $20.479 million is sufficient to move the college forward while simultaneously being fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative, given the government of Guam's current financial challenges. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee this morning and to testify in favor of the FY 2019 budget request for Guam Community College. Sincerely, Frank P. Ariola, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hara. Madam President.
Buenas and half a day. Speaker Cruz, Senator Torres, Senator San Agustin. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the Guam Community College fiscal year 2019 budget request. For the past 11 years, I have been honored to present the Guam Community College fiscal year budget. Today, as in every other public setting, I would like to begin by focusing on the GCC mission as the leader in career and technical workforce development, providing the highest quality student-centered education and job training for Micronesia. This fiscal year 2019 budget request focuses on that mission. And as the only government of Guam agency that has upheld our title for having clean audits for the past 17 years now, we have demonstrated that an investment in GCC is an investment in our students and our future. The process for the development of the GCC budget begins at our department level. Consideration for funding requirements is identified based on the goals and objectives, performance indicators, and proposed outcomes for each program that their respective department has identified. Through a systematic program review process, funding is provided to support their operations. Requests for any budget growth must be supported with departmental assessment data. After all budgets are submitted, the documentation is provided to the Resource Planning and Facility Committee that consists of faculty, staff, administrators, and students for their review and input. With their approval, it is submitted to me for concurrence and presented to the Board of Trustees for their final approval. This is how GCC's participatory governance process provides opportunities at all levels of the college to engage in this funding dialogue. Providing our students with the best educational experience that leads to student success requires the commitment of GCC's 264 employees. These employees support both the secondary and post-secondary students and programs at 6 of the Guam Department of Education public high schools and on the Manilao campus. 54 faculty support instruction in the secondary environment, while 71 support instruction in the post-secondary environment. There are also 102 staff and 37 administrators. In fall 2017, our post-secondary student enrollment was 2,271 students, although a slight decrease from fall 2016. Enrollment in GCC's career and technical education, or CTE programs for academic year 2017-2018 was at 2,719 students, nearly triple the enrollment from when we had the GCC Voc Tech High School on our campus. Students participate in the following programs at their respective high schools, depending on the facility availability: Allied Health, Automotive Service Technology, Automotive Collision Repair Technology, AutoCAD, Carpentry, Early Childhood Education, Electronics Technology, Lodging Management, Marketing, ProStart or Culinary, and Visual Communications. This upcoming academic year, we will be adding a secondary telecommunications program at Tijin High School that will include 5 sections with a total of 100 students anticipated for this new program. We are working with our dual credit articulated programs of study, or DCAPs, to have 19 credits awarded upon completion of the secondary program to an Associate of Science in Computer Science at GCC. This particular program was designed and built with the involvement of the business community to complement the Guam Chamber of Commerce's Silicon Village initiative. Over the past several years, GCC has implemented several initiatives that focus on student success. Chalani 365 allows students to register for a whole academic year at a time, thus making it easier to continue in college. Climber has produced promising results in accepting students' high school grades in English and math towards placement in college-level courses, so they don't have to take the placement test. Developmental education reform includes a review of credits required for all programs and the institution of our free construction boot camp this summer. All of these efforts are designed and lead to certification or program completion in a timely manner. These efforts also help to support the much-needed increase to our island's workforce and include factoring in the military buildup. GCC is preparing to launch our Early Middle College Initiative. We have assembled a team that will build its structure and provide information to our community on how it will work. We expect to launch our information sessions and pilot project in October of this year. More information will be provided then. In fiscal year 2018, GCC was appropriated $20,641,444, inclusive of the $200,000 for the First Generation Trust Fund. The adjusted budget, based on the government's fiscal realignment plan and DOE cash reserves, reduces it by $3.285673 to a total of $17,355,771. This is a 16% reduction for GCC. The comparison to the current fiscal year is to provide a perspective on the overall funding requirements needed by the college. In the past several months, you have seen a little more construction activity on the GCC campus. We've begun the renovation of our third of our old Butler buildings, Building 300, which will be the new, larger, multi-purpose auditorium. This construction was partly funded through a FEMA grant. GCC intends to continue to pursue additional funds to renovate more facilities. We're nearing the completion of Building 100, which will house the Criminal Justice and Human Services Program, and which adjoins our LEED Gold certified Building E. The college has also recently reinstituted our cosmetology program and has a full complement of students currently enrolled. In March of this year, the college had its on-site peer review from the visiting team of the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, or ACCJC. ACCJC is a division of WASC, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. In the upcoming weeks, we expect to receive the final results from the Commission's report, and we will share them with the officials and with the community. The Commission met this past week, so we should be hearing from this soon. The college prepared for this visit, not just this fiscal year, but continuously since our last visit in 2012, in order to ensure continuous quality improvement in our course offerings and services that we provide for our students. As my final note, I am prepared to bring GCC to the next level of strengthening our programs and our facilities. With your support, Team GCC will continue to provide the highest quality education that our students need to be successful in the workforce and in further post-secondary education pursuits. Through all of our GCC successes, innovation, and commitments, we have continued to provide the greatest return on investment for the people's funding. Allow me once again to request for your support for the $20,479,013 for GCC's fiscal year 2019 budget. Sidus Masi.
Thank you very much, President Okada. First, let me congratulate you for the implementation of the Silicon Village. I think that's great that we're doing that. Then let me take us back to reality. In the second to last paragraph on your second page, you talked about the financial realignment plan's reduction of GCC appropriation. You were made to take a 16% cut as opposed to what we all understood was supposed to be a 10% cut throughout the government. Is that correct?
That is correct, based on two separate components, a component imposed by BBMR and a cash reserve holdback, if you will, from the Department of Administration's release of allotments.
The next question.
Sure.
To date, what are your cash receipts, and what do you expect it to be by the end of the fiscal year?
So to date, we have received approximately $10 million, and we expect to receive by 9/30, $15,497,554. So an additional $5.5 million. But that also leaves a balance as of September 30th of about 1.4. And so if it's based on fiscal year and the current allotment schedule, we expect to receive another 5.5. If it includes a carryover for fiscal year 2019, then the estimate is 6.9 million additional.
But that 1 point reduction is taking into account the 16%.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? So actually, by the time the fiscal year ends, you would have been denied almost $5 million?
3.2. 3.2 makes up the 16%.
But you're going to have to, under the current allotment release, you'll also not receive an additional 1 point something?
Yeah, so.
The combination would be by the 15
That's correct.
total receipts, and when the appropriation was 20 million, you're short 5.
It'll be additional, yes, that's correct.
How did you end last year finally? The FY17, did they carry over some into this fiscal year?
That's-
And how did you finally, what was the final receipt from?
So fiscal year 2017, we received a total, all funds, the appropriated amount was 20.711, and we received 17,952,000, and that includes some money that was received after September 30th.
And when was the last time you received any money for 2017 during this fiscal year?
December,
December.
yes.
And if you listen to this morning's discussion with President Underwood, he also made mention of the fact that they were being shorted, I mean, not only in the fiscal realignment plan cut, but also in actual cash receipts. And he made several suggestions on how to be able to address that in upcoming years. But do you have any suggestions? We put into the administrative provisions, I think it was 4 years ago, the provision that you weren't supposed to be subject to BBMR allotment release and you were supposed to get your cash. But we've obviously not been able
Yeah, so
to
given
crack that nut. Do you have any
So-
suggestions on how we address that?
So I'd first like to request for the continuing appropriations to continue, because if you remove that, then any receipt of cash after September 30th would not be realized. Right now, we're still able, based on how DOA calculates and closes their books, is if there's additional cash to give us before the end of the calendar year, then they're able to provide that additional funding. Right now, with DOA, they've been giving us weekly allotments for the most part. Weekly allotments that is based on our estimation to allow us to continue to receive those funds. In terms of suggestions for future cash releases, because the BBMR, they don't hold the budget. So there's no constraints in terms of any releasing authority from BBMR. So that exemption is still allowed. It's when the cash is not available. So as long as we are allowed to continue carrying over that funding, perhaps a provision that says, and this is just thinking, perhaps a provision that says not to, that the college or educational institutions receive their money not to exceed, not to exceed anything less than 90%, or a certain percentage would be helpful. So then that means any cash that's available, that they must make up that payment to the institutions based on some ceiling. And then that kind of guarantees through legislation that we receive up to a certain percentage of our funding.
Just so it's clear to the listening public, this legislature appropriated $20+ million last year
That's correct.
last August for GCC's operations. To date, GCC has only received, is not expected to receive more than $15 million of that $20 million appropriation, or just above $15 million. And so at the end of the fiscal year, it looks like GCC will actually have suffered a 20% reduction in the fiscal realignment plan as opposed to the 10% being imposed throughout the rest of the government.
Based on the current cash releases that have been pretty consistent for the past several weeks, yes.
I, at loss for words, I know that an apology from me is not going to make it any easier, and though we've tried in administrative provisions to protect and shield, I still haven't been able to figure out how to make it stick. And we will try, and we will engage our legal counsel to try to figure out a different way of being able to word things. But I will take into account your recommendation and the recommendation made this morning by President Underwood about not being made to suffer more than the rest of the others. That if there is going to be a 10% cut, then all right, then everybody gets a 10% cut, but that GCC and UOG not be imposed upon to suffer anything greater than the rest of the agencies.
And that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I also want to congratulate you on 17 years of clean audits.
Thank you.
And to commend the university and your entire staff for how you handle it. And as Mr. Areola stated in his letter that was read by Mr. Hara, it proves that GCC has been good stewards of the cash or the appropriations that we give them, and you've tried your best to extraordinary efforts to make sure that what money does finally get to you is properly expended. So again, I congratulate you and your entire management team and staff at GCC for the efforts that you've expended over the last 17 years.
Thank you.
I'll have your oversight chair ask a few questions, and Senator Torres. And
yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Okada, I'd like to congratulate you. You know, you've been doing a great job, and your whole staff and the Board of Trustees. What I'm concerned about is there any laws that we need to enact that would help you so that you can generate your own money separate from the appropriation, where you can build revenue, because you contribute to the economy. You know, you bring in folks that fills the jobs that need to be filled here. Well, we shouldn't have to depend on the H2 workers. Is there any way we can, other than the recent bill that was passed to help you out and give you more money, but there's got to be other avenues where we can help you, because as long as the executive branch is going to come up with all the reasons to deny giving the education institutions the funds they should get, we want to make sure that the door is not closed for you to reach out. And I'm just trying to come up with things that UOG presented, that they wanted to make sure that they had their hands not tied, and I want to make sure that your hands are not tied, because, you know, as you're looking forward to the middle college, I want to make sure that everything else is open.
So this year, GCC, because we're nearing the end of our institutional strategic plan in 2020. So this year we're going to be going through a comprehensive strategic planning effort. And included in that strategic planning effort, we'll focus on additional revenue generation for the college. One thing I can share, and the reason why we are pursuing the middle early college concept, is because this provides an opportunities for students to get credentialed or their degrees or certificates earlier. If we can produce more students or more workers into the workforce, we already see the number of economic opportunities that exist. If we can provide that, the college in support in being able to provide the educational components, we would be allowed or increase the economy on Guam as a whole based on the number of students that we can contribute to the working to the workforce. And so that's our indirect contribution to the economic growth of the island. We do know that with the impending military buildup, that there's separate phases. There's the phase for construction. After that phase of construction, there's going to be long-term contracts to support all of that expansion, whether it be in security services, whether it be in HVAC or any cleaning services, any type, or even just hospitality management, culinary tourism. So if you think about all the career tech education programs that we have, it is our goal to identify what additional career and technical education courses is needed on the island, allocate or provide an opportunity to create those programs, similar to what we did with the Silicon Village, with the help of the business community by helping to build those programs for us so that we can recruit from the folks that work here or that live here that can help contribute to the economy. That's one component. The second component in terms of how can GCC be helped is, yes, in terms of what can we do to generate additional revenue. I will share with you that one of the accreditation team's comments to me was that GCC has not raised its tuition for 10 years. Yep. We have been able to maintain the level because we understand. We understand that we can't put our budget shortfalls on the back of the students, that we needed to be innovative, we needed to be creative, we need to identify how we're going to fill that gap, and we've done so in the past several years. We've been fiscally responsible, allocating budget to the different departments based on the cash available, not based on the budget, based on the cash available. So we've been able to manage that. So we're doing our part. We'd like to participate as much as we can with everyone else. We'd like to create perhaps other certifications or industry certifications that the community needs. And so that'll help us build and expand, because it's not just about expanding the funding base for GCC, it's about expanding the funding base for the whole island. Because if I was to continue to expand the GCC funding base, that means, yes, I can probably wean myself off the general fund, but really think of it as a holistic approach to helping build the economic for this island. And that is by producing qualified, trained students that can help support the workforce demands of our community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Cotto, it's very inspiring to listen to you speak and to listen to your presentation today. One of the concerns that many of us had most recently was when we were enacting or passing the bill that required students, the compulsory age of education, to be 18 years. So students have to remain in school through 18 years of age. And one of the concerns that was brought up was, well, what do we do with those problematic students who really are struggling to get through high school? And in looking at your secondary career and technical education, is this one of the gateways to ensuring that kids have a way to, or even a motivation to complete high school and complete it with certification or some skill set to be gainfully employed? Because one of the concerns was, well, are we just setting ourselves up for a bigger burden by keeping students in beyond 16 years of age?
So one of the things my management team and I and individuals at the campus have been discussing is there's an opportunity right now for high school students to participate in a GCC program, 10th, 11th, and 8th grade. That's the current secondary program that we have. So allowing or increasing the compulsory age, and this is something that GCC has never really discussed before, is how do we offer credit recovery? By offering credit recovery for folks in career and technical education allows them to complete Certificate of Mastery, which equals college credit, which equals post-secondary education, which equals certification. So allowing them through college credit recovery would provide opportunities for these students who would, for every intent and purpose, maybe drop out of college. And when a student, drop out of high school. When a student leaves high school for whatever reason it is, it takes almost twice as much effort to bring them back into post-secondary, because you've got to first get through that first hurdle of adult high school completion or adult education. So if we're able to create a model of credit recovery, so students are given additional opportunities to complete their program, and we provide them. We're not looking to provide students with a career. We're not looking to provide students with a job. We are looking to provide students with a lifetime career in whatever career they identify. It's not one job that we're preparing them for. It's their lifetime. And so by allowing students to participate in career and technical education, which is the hands-on experience in a lot of these vocational areas or occupational areas, and giving them certifications that industry is looking for, it helps students see a lot further than high school.
But even at the high school level, these sorts of programs provide some hope, where a lot of times hope is what is lost and what results in them just having no incentive to even, or their families having no incentive to.
It certainly does, because
Yeah.
the Certificate in Mastery program, inclusive of that program, is 180 hours in a career job. So whatever their occupational area is for that program, they get 180 hours in that job, so that allows them to earn the Certificate of Mastery. So it's already embedded into the program. It's that work experience component.
Well, we certainly support any initiatives that can further your endeavors in that regard.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
Sus Mossy, and congratulations also to the board for a very fine job, consistent fine job, and for all you do for our community.
Sijus Masi.
Did you wish to make a closing statement? Otherwise, we'll recess.
I would just like to thank you for all of your support, for coming to the GCC public hearing. I know that for the past several years, a couple years ago, we asked for less than the current budget. Last year, we asked for a little bit more. If you look at what GCC is requesting this year, it's about $38,000. But that absorbs all of the increments, all of the contractual adjustments, all the benefits associated with personnel. So we've been fine-tuning our budget projections. We've been really working within what we can expect to receive. Because, Speaker, as you know, several years ago, yes, I was the one that made the comment that said, let's ask for more so that when I get the percentage, I'm getting actually what I need. And that comment was made last year. But we've been fiscal stewards. We know how finance and budgeting works, and we're willing to participate, given the cash constraints of this government, to work within our means and what we're able to receive.
And I thank you very much for what you've done and for what you've had to endure. And this additional imposition of a 20% cut was not something that we had anticipated. I mean, we realized that you were making an appropriation request last year that was less than the previous year, and we were more than glad to give you what you asked for. But unfortunately, even from the cut, you've been forced to endure an additional 20% reduction. And I wish that weren't true, or there was somehow a way that we could assist. We'll look at your appropriation again, and we will continue to try to support you as much as we have. And so, again, I commend you, your board, and your management staff and employees for the excellent and extraordinary work that you all do. Thank you very much. And so this budget hearing will now recess until 3:30 when we meet with the Guam Public Library System.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.